Yeah, Lynk Cup time. Jamaica Premier League champions, reigning Harbour View, along with Cavalier FC, were the first to book their spots in the semifinals of the Lynk Cup All-Ireland knockout competition after securing second leg quarter-final victories on Wednesday. Starting with the Stars of the East, coach Ludlow Bernard's men came from a goal down to beat Chapperton Maroons by 2-1 and advance 3-2 on aggregate after a 1-all scoreline in last week's first leg. Lance Mariah Chapperton eliminated from the Premier League, relegated from the Premier League, and now they are out of the Lynk Cup.
Yeah, well, I have to start by saying, it's not a surprising result. However, as the matches continue to go on, we saw some positive signs from Chapperton Maroons, and one such positive sign was in this particular match. They had the opening goal from Aaron Elliott, right? I think their downfall is that when they get the lead, they're unable to keep the lead. And I felt as if, that has costed Chapperton Maroons a couple of times. But we all knew that, Chapperton Maroons, the fact that they were deducted points, of course, they had to get a new coach in the middle of the season and whatnot, would have contributed to their downfall. I hope, they can rebuild and, of course, come back stronger next time.
Credit to them. They've done really well in this Lynk Cup, and they pushed Harbour View, one of the best teams in the Premier League at the moment, to the limit. They were unable to beat them, Harbour View, in the first leg, and only squeezing the victory here in the second leg as well. So Harbour View were given a tough fight here by Chapperton Maroons, and it just advertises once again that knockout competitions, no matter where in the country you're playing them, big teams can't, think about the smaller teams too lightly.
Exactly.
Yeah, also want to make a quick point quickly about David Reid, who was involved in a collision with Ajani Talbot towards the end of that game. The understanding is that initially David Reid was unconscious. He regained consciousness, was taken to the hospital. Members of the Chapperton Maroons management staff went with him, and that he was released. And he was in pretty good spirits last night. As we have a look at the incident here, he was in pretty good spirits last night, and by all indications he is okay now. So very good news coming for David Reid, who played in the Da Costa Cup for Glenmuir High last season, the 2022 season, and incidentally he is on loan from the Harbour View Football Club. So but it's great to hear that he is okay, because you can never take for granted that these situations will end well. So wonderful news there. In Wednesday's other quarter-final, Cavalier and Mount Pleasant faced off with the score locked at 1-1 from the first leg. Cavalier prevailed 1-0 in the encounter to advance 2-1 on aggregate. Lance and Mariah, the first time this season that Cavalier have been able to get the better of this Mount Pleasant team. Mount Pleasant had beaten them 1-0 when they met for the first time this season, and then they had a couple of drawn results, including a 2-all, then a 1-all draw in the first leg, and the Cavalier coming full circle with a 1-0 victory here to advance to the semifinals of the Lynk Cup. Big win for the Cavalier team last night.
Right, and Cavalier getting that goal in the 89th minute. A close one for them, but of course it was just enough to get them over the line. Mount Pleasant, though, when I looked at the stats at the end of the match, I have to say I'm very disappointed in them, because they had a lot more possession than the Cavalier team, but of course they failed to capitalize on any chances that they would have gotten.
Concerned for Mount Pleasant at this stage of the season, because in the Premier League, for which they're chasing their first ever league title in Jamaica, they have fallen off pretty badly towards the back end of the season. I think they have just one win in their last 7 or 8 matches, Mount Pleasant. So worrying for them. Having said that, Cavalier is without question one of the best teams in the country at the moment. So losing a game to Cavalier in the knockout by itself, not horrific for Mount Pleasant, but in the context of their form in the past 4 or 5 weeks, heading into the playoffs in the Jamaica Premier League, I think Mount Pleasant's coaching staff will be a little concerned.
And in the context as well of how much they have invested in trying to win trophies.
Yes.
And when that's not happening, it will be highly disappointing. It doesn't matter who you lose to. when you spend the money and when you put the infrastructure in place to win titles and you're unable to do that, it's always going to be massively disappointing. All right, before we go, let's give you an update on the first of the two remaining quarterfinals. Portmore United have a 2-1 lead over Malines United from the first leg. My producer is going to tell me what's happening in that second leg now. There's another quarterfinal, the last one, set for tonight. Tivoli Gardens looking to defend a 2-0 lead, and they will be facing Dunby Holden. Portmore United in action now in their second leg encounter. Yeah, that's that. Stay with us. More to come on the SportsMax Zone, including a chat with the ISA president, Keith Wellington.
Stay with SportsMax on YouTube and follow us on all social pages for updates, news and entertainment.